One license. Download, create, report. Once you're a subscriber, you'll have access to thousands of downloadable music image files from our catalog of member publishers, and our outstanding database will help you make sure the song or text you're looking for is covered. Creating worship aids, bulletins, and projections has never been easier. Search for your song and download high-resolution music image files, all in one place. By taking advantage of the most up-to-date technology, our website makes it easy to report the titles you use. This ensures authors, composers, and publishers receive fair compensation. Music directors, pastors, and their teams can report song usage 12 weeks in the past and 6 weeks into the future. And our convenient list feature allows you to store frequently used titles for future access, or to download your entire list of songs at the click of a button. One License offers annual, event, and single-use reprint licenses. Annual licenses are the economical choice for those who reprint or project music on a regular basis. Event licenses are great for retreats, conferences, and conventions that are up to 1 week in length. And single-use licenses are perfect for a wedding, funeral, or other one-time event. In addition to congregational reprint licenses, One License offers a podcast streaming license for churches to stay connected to their many members, and a practice track license for music directors to share recordings with choir members and instrumentalists to help them learn their music. The One License customer service team is here to help. Our intelligent ticketing system and phone support ensure that your questions are promptly addressed. Email us at info@onelicense.net or call us at 1-800-663-1501. We believe in the power of music to connect and inspire communities. One License allows congregations to make the most of our member publishers' music, providing access to the finest music for the worshiping assembly. Whether you're using our service on an annual or a one-time basis, we're proud to offer our support. One License, inspiring congregational song.
Well, hello, license holders, and welcome. We are absolutely thrilled to have you today. Wishing you a Happy New Year from the entire One License team based here in Chicago. It's only February 8th. I think we can say Happy New Year still, right? Hello, happy to have all of you here with us. It's so nice to see that number increasing in our chat window. Lovely to see everybody introducing themselves. This is super exciting. I saw we even have someone on from Australia, so good morning to you. We aren't usually talking to our folks in Australia until later in our workday. So good morning to you. Hope your day is going well already. My friends, this webinar is always held in the first quarter of the new year, and it's intentionally designed for your educational benefit. Of course, an added element of the conversation is the pandemic as it continues and as churches continue to stream their services online. So we're very happy to help you with all of those questions, especially related to podcasting and streaming today. We'll cover all of this and more. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Brenna Cronin. I'm the General Manager of One License, and I am joined by my team on the call today as well. They'll introduce themselves in just a moment, but you'll notice that we'll be using some polls in our webinar today to engage with our audience. Team, let's launch that second poll. I'll introduce you to Sierra. Sierra, go ahead and read that question for us.
Sure. Our second poll today is, how confident are you in your liturgical copyright knowledge?
Thank you, Sierra. All right, everyone. I want to acknowledge that webinars can sometimes feel like drinking from a fire hose. So I'll encourage you to take notes and to revisit this information in the coming days, and always follow up with us if you have questions. Our team is also going to share how the webinar is going to be posted onto our blog. And there was also that downloadable PDF that was listed at the beginning of the chat window. We can go ahead and share that with you too, so that way you could take some good notes. So now I want to formally introduce our multimedia specialist, Sierra Ronning, and thank her for her efforts on that fantastic prelude video. Sierra, in that same drinking from a fire hose headspace, can you share with everyone how they can access the webinar after the live recording is over?
Absolutely. Our blog, news.onelicense.net, is an excellent resource for all the latest news from One License. We'll be sharing our webinar there and on our blog in a few days, and you can revisit this information or share it with a team member who wasn't able to join us today. We'll also be including it in our February newsletter, which will be sent on Tuesday, February 22nd.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sierra. I know that accessing the webinar after the fact is usually really helpful for folks, especially those who can't join for time zone differences or other commitments. So if that's you and you're watching this after the fact, hope you are also having a wonderful day, and know that you can always email us too at info@onelicense.net. The webinar, really and truly, we keep it up for a full year. So, you can access the same information over the course of any time in 2022, and then we'll have a New Year's webinar coming up in 2023. Can't even believe I just said those years. I don't know. I sometimes feel like the pandemic time has just changed all awareness of time sometimes. All right, my friends, now I want to introduce you to Katie M. Deaver, our assistant manager, who's going to share a few housekeeping notes for our conversation today. Katie, it looks like we are near 700 registered viewers, which is really fantastic. It's just awesome. It's absolutely awesome to see everybody here today, and it really is an honor to partner with all of you in congregational song.
Thanks so much, Brenna. I absolutely agree. It is so fun getting to see where you're all from. I actually saw quite a few Australia folks with us, so that is very, very exciting for all of us today for sure. So welcome, whether you're with us live today or you're watching this recording after the fact, we are truly just so glad that you are here. And we hope that this information that we're going to go through today and that we're sharing in this webinar will help you to get the most out of your One License permissions. A few housekeeping notes as we begin this time together. Our webinar will run no longer than 1 hour in length. All you need to participate with us today is speakers or a headphone so that you can hear us well. There's no need to have a microphone or a video camera or anything like that since you're an audience member with us today. If you printed out that PDF of fast facts and the note-taking sheet that we sent to you by email, I'd invite you to go ahead and take that out, grab a writing utensil, or feel free to open up a Google Doc, something so that you can take notes throughout our time together today in case that's helpful to you. Our time today is going to be divided into 4 parts. First, I'm going to be sharing some background on One License and offer some best practices on copyright. Then I'll turn things over to Brenna, and she's going to offer an external overview of our website, as well as a more internal overview of your license holder account. We'll also share some information on an exciting new website feature and some tips and tricks for searching in our system. And then also get to hear from Sierra about highlighting some really helpful resources on our blog. Finally, we'll wrap up our time together with a live Q&A session at the end. I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Sierra, and she'll talk a little bit more about that Q&A process. Sierra?
Thank you, Katie. If you are here with us live, you can click on that Q&A option at the bottom of your screen and then type your questions directly into that box. I do see a few of you have already taken advantage of that, and I promise we will definitely look at your questions and hopefully get those addressed live here today. We will be monitoring the Q&A throughout our time together, and we'll do our best to answer each and every question live. Over the last few days, we have received a few questions online, and we'll also be able to try and get those included today as well. If we cannot get those answered live today, we invite you to email us at info@onelicense.net. I'll also encourage you to email us there if you have specific questions about your organization. That is the best and fastest way to get in touch with our One License team. You can also submit your questions through the contact link in the upper right-hand corner when you are logged into your account. One of the features of our ticketing system is that if you are logged into your account and send us a message through that contact link, all your account information, such as your license number and your organization name, will automatically be sent to us along with your request. And that is super helpful for our One License team, and it allows us to find your account much more quickly. So again, contact us either of those ways. Feel free to write the word webinar in your subject line, and we will know that you were here and to get back to you as soon as we can. We typically get back to all questions within 2 to 3 business days.
Awesome. Thank you, Sierra. And I appreciate too when folks write webinar in the subject line, because then we have a context for the information that we've already shared. We can highlight something or we can expand on something. So thanks very much for mentioning that. Sierra, I'm especially appreciative of your support in our chat today. I know you're going to be sharing some links and some specific things with everybody today. And thanks again for all the multimedia expertise that you bring to our team. With that, everyone, let's move to an overview of some copyright best practices with Katie. Katie wears our educational and pastoral hat on our team. She is immensely talented when it comes to that piece of things. So Katie, feel free to start sharing with us a little bit of information on history, vision, copyright, overview, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks so much, Brenna. Let me just get the screen share going. As Brenna shared, luckily we have Sierra to help those of us who maybe aren't quite as tech inclined. I wear my education hat with pride, but I will be the first to say sometimes those technological pieces, I am very glad to have another team member to lean on. So thank you for bringing those gifts to our team. I appreciate that so much. So yes, I will go ahead and get us started. We'll share a little bit of information about One License. We really focus a lot here on our vision for licensing. That is centered, as Brenna shared, on an educational and proactive approach to copyright. So it's really important to us that you feel confident that you understand those copyright basics and you know what you need to do in order to follow copyright law. Our song database has over 180,000 titles, and we publish with over 300 member publishers to ensure that you have access to the music that you prefer to utilize in your worship services. We are a global company, and we serve organizations anywhere that the church gathers, but we do specialize in those mainline Protestant and Roman Catholic organizations. Since you're joining us today for our new user webinar, we are sort of assuming that your organization likely does already hold some sort of a license with us, but we also recognize that licensing needs do change depending on how the worship life of your organization may change. We do recommend that you reassess your needs for licensing each year when your license comes up for renewal to ensure that you have the correct licensing for the way that you're currently worshiping. A great resource for you to take a look at is this beautiful infographic from our multimedia specialist, Sierra. So it's kind of fun, right? Something you might see on social media or some of these other places online. Which music license do I need? So you'll follow these prompts. Are you meeting in person or are you only meeting online? Maybe you're doing both. If so, you can sort of follow the boxes and follow the lines to see which license is best for you, or perhaps you're not actually utilizing copyrighted music in a way that requires licensing. And this chart will help you figure that out as well. So please feel free to take a look at these. When Brenna talks a little bit more about the website, she'll also show you how to find other helpful resources like these infographics. As I mentioned earlier, we do partner with over 300 member publishers, and here you'll see a few of our premier member publishers. These are some of those larger publishing houses and are likely names that many of you are familiar with and utilize music from their catalogs pretty frequently. Again, later on in our webinar, we'll take a look at the website a little more closely, and Brenna will be able to show you exactly how you can search our site to make sure that your favorite publishers are a part of our service. All right, and now the part I know that you were all most excited about to be joining us to learn about, right? Let's talk a little bit about copyright, okay? So copyright is a form of intellectual property law. It's designed to protect any type of artistic medium. So things like songs, poems, drama, literature, even computer software can be protected in this way. Whatever the medium is, it needs to be a fixed form. You can't copyright an idea. Anytime that you're going to utilize a copyrighted work in a new way, So for example, you're going to reprint it in a worship aid or reprint it up on a projection screen or include it in an online medium for an online service. The composer, the author, any other owners of that creative work deserve to be compensated for that use. So how exactly does our service help to make all of that happen? That is where your reports come in. And this is why we ask for 100% compliance with those reports. If you're utilizing a copyrighted song, we want you to report that copyrighted song. We utilize those reported music usage titles from your account to calculate and distribute those royalties to our member publishers, who then pay them to the artists and composers and authors and arrangers. For all of us here at One License, being able to accurately pay out those royalties truly is a justice issue. This is so important to all of us. We want to be sure that we are appropriately supporting the creative work of these composers and authors and other artists who inspire our music choices. And we want to make sure that they're able to continue composing and contributing that creative work so that we can all continue to utilize it within our worshiping communities. We're going to talk a lot more about that reporting piece later on in our time together. But while I've got these slides up, I do want to show you again this helpful graphic that Sierra has created for us about displaying your permissions and your licensing information. So when we talk about displaying permissions, this information, this setup is what we're talking about. So this is the type of information that you're going to put into your worship aid or up on your projection screen if you're reprinting copyrighted music in those ways. This is also the information that you want to get included in those online services. So as you can see on the slide, you want to make sure that you're listing your copyright information. So things like your song title, who the text is written by, who the tune is written by, your copyright year, publisher, and then that all rights reserved line. And then just below that, you're going to see your licensing permissions. So this is sort of your explanation of the type of use, right? So if you're reprinting, maybe you're including it in an online service, maybe it's both, right? So maybe it's reprinted and podcast streams with permission. That's all going to go in this section of these permissions. You're also going to, where you see that A with all those zeros, that's where you're going to put in your individual license number. So that way, when folks are, going through YouTube and they find your service, they can see who wrote the song, what you're doing with it, and also see that licensing permission number so that they know you've got all your ducks in a row and you're doing everything that you should be doing with those permissions. We also have found that being able to list this information within the online service and in those video descriptions can significantly help you cut down on those claims and strikes that you might see in those online services. Sierra wrote a really excellent piece on that topic that I'm sure she's dropping in the chat now if she hasn't already. And we also have another piece on our blog that gives you some creative ideas for getting this information included in those online videos, even if maybe you're a little like me and the tech skills are not as savvy. We have some easier ways for you to get that information into these services. So in just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Brenna, who will walk us through the external and internal website. But before we do that, Sierra, I'd love to hear if we have some questions about this section.
Yeah, that was a really great overview, Katie. Thank you so much for that information. We did get a great question about who is allowed to use that license. Can anyone use the license, or can only the parish organization use it?
It's a great question, a super, super great question. So it honestly depends a little bit, right? So if you are, if the church itself is hosting the event, certainly your, music directors are able to log in and download resources that they would need. Your pastor can log in and download resources they might need. There's no limit to how many users you can have within that account. So as long as the organization that's hosting the event is the one that's, using that reporting and doing those things, then all of that is just fine.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
You bet. You are so welcome. At this point, we will hand things over to Brenna, and we will be able to take a closer look at our website.
Thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate it. So I want to start here right at the top by talking a little bit about the external version of our homepage and some of the most important things that you're going to want to remember from this information. So first and foremost, we're primarily a reporting service, and we're secondarily a downloading service. This means that our member publishers participate in a variety of different ways. Some of them offer downloadable image files, some of them link to their hymnal indexes. The vast majority participate, I would say, in having those image files up there, but the title data is the thing that the overwhelming majority of member publishers rely on us for. So we're primarily a reporting service and secondarily a downloading service. Those downloads are seen as an added benefit, not necessarily a requirement of the service. We also offer congregational music only for reprint. We allow you through our podcast streaming license to include prelude, postlude, instrumental, choral works, but that is a separate license. That's our podcast streaming license. But in terms of the reprinting version of the license, it's just for congregational pieces. So that's incredibly important. If you're looking to make copies of instrumental music or of music for your choir, that's something you're going to want to follow up with the copyright holder directly for access and information for. The overwhelming majority of our users subscribe to Unlicensed for the reprint license itself. This is because the purchase of any type of hymnal or missalette, we often refer to those as resources. And just another vocabulary thing, you may hear us referring to organizations generally today. That's because the vast number of our organizations that we partner with aren't even necessarily churches. They can be schools or hospitals or funeral homes or retirement communities. So we don't necessarily want to use the word church and exclude anyone. So we use the word organization to refer to that, just a quick sidebar. But when it comes to resources, having a purchased hymnal or a purchased missalette that you're physically holding onto in your pew during your service, that purchase does not give you permission to reprint or reproduce anything from it. So anytime you're taking music out of its original form, out of that hymnal or missalette resource, and perhaps making a wedding booklet or a funeral leaflet or putting it up on a projection screen, or maybe even making a worship aid for Triduum services or for Christmas, or even on a weekly basis, you need a reprint license in order to be able to do that. We're really transparent about what we cover and what we don't cover. So even from the external portion of the website, even if I wasn't logged in, and if I wanted to search for a title, I'll type in Christ Be Our Light, for example. I can see on the website if the song is covered. If it's not covered, perhaps it's not listed at all. And that way I know, even before I go about purchasing a license, what's available and what isn't. That transparency is really important to us. Now, one of the most exciting things that we have to talk to you all about today, and I know that Sierra is going to drop in a link to our blog about this, so you can read a little bit more about it after the fact. You may notice, if you haven't been on the website in the last couple of days, that there are these 4 images here now to the left of the reporting button. These are our new permissions icons buttons, and they help you understand in a more transparent way. You can tell that transparency is very important to us. You can tell in a more transparent way what pieces are covered for which type of license. So in this first example here, we see Christ Be Our Light by our friend Bernadette Farrell, published by OCP. It's a song we all know and love well. You'll see that it's covered for both reprint permission and podcast streaming permissions, and both versions of our practice track license, both the non-commercial version and the commercial version. Now, you purchase the same license, you purchase the practice track license, but sometimes there can be differences in whether you're allowed to make copies commercially or make copies non-commercially. So that's the difference there. Because all of these 4 icons are bold or that black charcoal color, that means that they're covered. If you want to look at this example down here, We have 2 gray icons for the practice track license. This means that this particular version or this particular song is only covered for reprint permissions and podcast streaming permissions, and it's not covered for practice track permissions. Now, if you ever have a question about that, or that's providing confusion, or you think that something should be covered and it's showing that it's not, go ahead and send us an email. We're very, very happy to follow up with the member publisher and ask them perhaps why there is a difference with that particular title. If you look at our member publisher page, you'll see that there's a list of who participates in what license. But of course, our member publishers are always allowed to fine tune on a song by song basis if there's a specific set of permissions for something. So again, really excited to share all that with you. Take a look at that permissions icons blog post for more information. So how one license works, it's a 3-part process, or 3 pieces that we like to think about: download, create, and report. So we're not a worship aid creation service from an artistic perspective, but we give you all of the tools to do so. So again, we understand that every one of our organizations that we work with are different. Some do projection screens, some do worship aids, some do just bulletins posted on their website that have the music for the week included in it. Whatever creative lens that you want to view all of this from is typically permitted. We even do supplemental hymnal resources. You can make, your own non-commercial, folder, pull out your blue folder to page 12. And, there's one of the songs that we know and love so well. All of those things are covered with our reprint license. But in terms of being a worship aid creation service, most of our users use something like Microsoft Word or Google Docs or Publisher or Adobe, depending on your own skill set when it comes to creating worship aids. Now, there are a variety of file formats. Our member publishers can upload PDFs, GIFs, TIFFs. There's all kinds of different things that they can upload. You are also welcome with the reprint license to create reprint boxes yourself. So if you have the skill set, or you have access to programs like Sibelius or Finale, or even if it's just a text file, if you want to type out those text lyrics, you're welcome to do that too. Again, all of those things require a reprint license with us. Our news and announcement section here, this automatically clicks right over to our blog. So I'm just going to jump over to this page for just a quick moment. My friends, if there is one thing that you leave with today, I want you to visit the blog and look at this post right here: simple steps towards copyright compliance. Sierra, when you have a chance, go ahead and drop that one into the chat as well. My friends, simple steps towards copyright compliance. This is a 5-minute video. It'll take you just 5 minutes to watch it. If you need some added accountability, watch it right after this webinar. It is a really, really simple overview of some steps that you can take today to become copyright compliant in your organization. Now, we try not to use the word compliance because we really like to approach all of this in a really educational and pastoral way. But at the same time, this is a justice issue for us. Katie talked about this, right? So if you're finding yourself in a new position, or if you're finding yourself really struggling with maybe some differences on your staff about what's appropriate copyright and what isn't, I may encourage you to share this video with your team, making sure everybody's on the same page. My friends, if you have a file cabinet full of Xeroxed music that you don't have permissions for, that's an issue. It's an issue, and I'm going to offer that with some loving accountability today. If you're reproducing things without the appropriate license, it's an issue. So I'm going to encourage you to really, really take this opportunity to reset, to get your whole team on board and make sure that you're copyright compliant moving forward in the future. Moving down now to our footer, there's some FAQs. There's also a video tutorial section and a brochure section. Perhaps for those of you who are interested in learning about group licenses or need to share a brochure, feel free to go ahead and click on that link. We're happy to share more information with you about that. You can also click on this contact link button and it will take you to up here as well, this upper right-hand corner of our website, and you can send us an email anytime. I'll note again what Sierra said earlier: if you're already logged into the website, then we'll automatically receive all of your contact information, like your license number, invoice number, and all of that is super helpful for us to be able to help figure out your account. Just a few more things here before we move to an overview of the internal portion of the website. This How It Works page here, if you need a little bit more information on the specific different types of licenses, you can go ahead and click on those. We'll share a little bit more here. Those infographics that we mentioned earlier are here on this page as well, along with the tutorial videos. If all of this feels really overwhelming, and I just want to acknowledge, I can sometimes talk a little fast, and it's only because I want to be really respectful of your time and make sure that we fit in as much as we're able to today. These are really, really quick 2 to 3 to 4 minute videos that you can watch that really dive a little bit deeper into specific website skills. All right. My friends, let's visit the member publisher page. This is where I was talking about earlier, our publishers indicating which licenses they participate in. So the reprint license, all of our member publishers join as a part of our service, but the podcast streaming license and the practice track licenses are addendums, they're add-on licenses. So they get to decide whether that's something they want to participate in. And then again, remember, on a granular level, they're able to edit on a song-by-song basis if something is covered or it isn't covered. Moving over to our options and prices page. Again, as Katie said, the vast majority of you are already license holders with us, but I do want to mention a couple of things on this page. Your IP address will automatically direct you to which pricing is the most appropriate for you. When you're not logged in, you can toggle down by region as well. We have a variety of different license types, and one of the things that I want to highlight here is average weekly attendance. The average weekly attendance of your organization is the reason why we have an equitable pricing model. So if you're only serving 100 members of your church every single week, you are signing up for an average weekly attendance level that reflects that. So we have a lot of folks whose numbers go up around Easter and Christmas time, and their numbers go down in the summer. We encourage you to take a look at the entire year and do an average of all of those numbers. Now, the most popular license category that we have is category D, up to 400 folks. If you have 401 attending a service, are you going to get in big trouble about that? No, of course not. There is an average over the course of the whole year. However, if you're finding yourself consistently hitting over that number, you're going to want to follow up with us so we can adjust your account accordingly. I'll also note too that sometimes there are churches that reach out to us and say, you know, hey, we're doing a archdiocesan-wide event, or we're doing a town-wide event. We're doing an outdoor service. We're doing a big summer picnic for all of the churches that are in our town. Those are things that are likely going to exceed beyond your average weekly attendance category, and you're going to want to get a single-use license for those events. Now, going down here, we talk a little bit about that here. You don't have to buy a single-use license for a wedding that's being held at your church if it's within that average weekly attendance number. Weddings, funerals, Sunday night, teen group meeting, those are all things that happen within the life of your organization. Those things happen within the life of your parish, and they should be included in your number. But if you're hosting a one-off convention or a large event of some capacity, if you happen to be a cathedral and you have a big installation service that's happening, those are going to be things that you want to make sure that you double check your licensing coverage to make sure that you are covered for. All right. Thank you so much for indulging me on that. I appreciate it. Again, one more time, here's that contact reminder. If you have questions after the webinar today, go ahead and email us info@onelicense.net, put webinar in the subject line, and we'll be happy to follow up with you with a little bit more context. All right, Katie, do we have any questions on the external portion of the website?
We do. We're getting some really, really excellent questions. So thank you all for these wonderful questions for us to address today. So Brenna, what should they do if the copyright holder isn't a member publisher with us here at One License?
Yeah, great question. And it has an easy answer. You'll need to follow up with them directly. So if you visit this member publisher page and you don't see the entity that you're looking for, so for example, I'll type into Zay, we know that they're covered, they're dear friends and colleagues of ours. You'll see that they're covered here in a variety of different ways, depending on the territory or region that you happen to be searching from, because copyright also has territory restrictions, an added layer there. But if you don't see the copyright holder listed, you're going to want to follow up with them directly to find out how to license their works. It's entirely possible that they license their works directly. It's also possible that they work with a different licensing service and they can help you point in the right direction.
That's really helpful. Thanks, Brenna.
Good. Wonderful, Katie. Any other questions I could answer at the moment?
I think we are good to move on to that internal site.
All right, wonderful. So a couple of quick overviews here. This My Account tab is where you can edit your personal information. You can also update the information of your specific organization. This Licenses tab, friends, this is the other really, really important piece of information that I want you to be left with today. So the first one was that simple steps towards copyright compliance overview video. The second one is how to send yourself a copy of your welcome packet. So you're going to do that by logging in, clicking on licenses, clicking on the green arrow, and then sending yourself your welcome packet. Your welcome packet includes your license, it includes your invoice, it includes your terms, it includes a helpful instructions document that actually has live links to our blog, which is super helpful. So again, if you're having a fire hose moment, if all of this is super overwhelming, download a copy of your welcome packet, and then you'll be able to view that information, pair it with your copyright compliance video, maybe even watch this webinar again, and you'll be in really good shape. If you need to edit the users to your account, we actually get this question all the time. If you know that you're transitioning out of your role and you need to assign a new account owner, you can do that right here. If you need to add an administrative assistant, or if you need to add the pastor to the account, all of that can be done right here from this Users tab. This default settings tab is really interesting. For those of you who do subscribe to a specific hymnal resource, you can actually click on the resource here if it happens to be indexed with us. Again, that is up to our member publishers to provide that data. You can click on the specific resource that you use, and then those results will populate in kind of like a smart search kind of a way, so it's a little bit easier for you to sort through. The default number of services here means that the reports kind of multiply themselves based on the number of services that you list. So for example, if your 4:30 Saturday service, your 8 a.m. Sunday, and your 10 a.m. Sunday are all the same exact music for the most part, right? Maybe your choral anthem is a little bit different. You have a podcast streaming license with us for that, totally fine. Indicate the number of services as 3, because then you only have to report those pieces once. It'll still give you that option in the drop-down menu to change it if you need to on a one-off basis, but this can be really helpful and save yourself a little bit of time. This Downloads tab is if you've downloaded any reports in the last year or so. For example, if you want to look at a quarterly report or a yearly report of everything that you've submitted to us, those reports are located here. And then this notification section, it's also doubled here, this little alarm bell, really, really fantastic new addition to the website as well, being able to send you some one-off notifications about things, whether that's song submission reminders or recently the reporting window changed from Monday to Sunday. Those are all really helpful things that you'll see noticing and popping up, I should say, in your notifications section. Moving over to reporting. If you've never used the browse by mass setting or other liturgical setting before, really, really good way to refine your search results. If you've ever typed in the word amen or alleluia or holy, 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 you've probably learned the hard way that there are 1 million bazillion results that are going to come up for that. So being able to refine by the mass setting is a really, really helpful feature. Now I'm going to hit Command F. I'm working on a Mac. So you may also have a Command Find feature if you're using a Windows computer. This helps me not have to scroll through the whole list. I just typed in the word joy and then it populated for me. So this is the Mass of Joy and Peace. So again, instead of searching the word mass or instead of searching the word joy that may have a lot of results, browsing by mass setting is going to allow you to narrow down those search results specifically. Here we have another great example of those permissions icons. This particular piece is approved for all of those uses. So you can have a lot of confidence when it comes to that. We have a lot of transparency, like I said earlier, in our permissions. So I want to give you this example here. I just searched by a song ID number. That's that gray number that's listed here. For those of you that are working with administrative assistants or are getting reporting help from someone who may feel really overwhelmed when it comes to music and copyright and understanding the differences between different pieces, you can always give them that song ID. That might actually be really helpful for folks to search. I know my parish, we actually last year had an 8th grade confirmation student who was getting some service hours and who was a young cantor with us and really wanted to learn more about music and music ministry. So they did some of our reporting for us. And it was really easy to say, hey, here's a SKU number, go ahead in and report that. And it made our lives a little bit easier. I'll also mention here too that having a consistent date of the month or date of the week that you report can be immensely helpful when it comes to staying on top of your reporting history. So maybe, I know friends, there are no slow times in ministry. I know this, but maybe the last Friday of the month tends to be an easier day for you. That's a day where you can log in and get all of your reporting done. Maybe it's easier for you on a weekly basis. Log in, take 5 minutes, take care of your reporting. Katie mentioned earlier that we have 93% of our license holders that are on top of their reporting. My friends, can we make that 100? Can we make that 100 for our composers and authors who, oh my goodness, are absolutely worthy of those royalties of the works that we use? I know we can, and I know that that's something that you can help us with. If we head over now to this report usage page, you'll see that we have a weekly overview of all of our titles that have been reported. I want to highlight this week here for you, week 47, 0 reported titles. We want to avoid seeing the red there. It's okay to see 0 as black with that check mark. That means that we didn't use any titles that week, and we're telling the system that we didn't use any titles that week, but we want to avoid the red 0 reported titles. We want to at least tell the system something when it comes to that. Let's go ahead and click on this manage button here and take a look at some of these titles. If for whatever reason I need to edit what usage the title had, I can do this here. If I need to edit the number of services it was used for, I can do this here. If I accidentally reported it for the wrong week, I can go ahead and shift that here as well. Going back to this search results page, you'll notice here too, those permissions icons, this piece makes a lot of sense. It's an organ piece. Of course, it's only covered for podcast streaming permissions and not for reprint permissions. All right. One more piece I want to highlight for all of you here, and this is the ability to search in a variety of different ways. So I'm thinking of the piece, "The Lord is Kind and Merciful." You can also imagine that this would pull up almost countless results. It is such a popular song. But if I add the composer's name at the end of it, it's going to give me better search results. Another way to search for this is to type in the composer's name and to search by Psalm 103, and we'll see the results popping up that way as well. Now, in this particular example, GIA has indexed their hymnal information. So if I search just by the hymnal information, I can also find that title data here too. Now, here is where I give the caveat. The vast majority of our member publishers have just title information and maybe some images. There are only a select number of member publishers, and it's usually larger publishing houses that have more team members and more capacity that are able to add that metadata, we call it, that hymnal metadata. So if for whatever reason you're searching for a resource and you don't see it here, or if you're searching for a specific song in a resource and you don't see it this way, always, 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 my friends, search by title and composer. You're more likely to find it that way. And it's possible that they just didn't add the hymnal metadata to the website. All right. You'll note here that there are a variety of different file types that you can download. You can also click on a listen link. Usually those are like 30-second overview clips of songs that are helping for planning purposes or double checking that it's the right one that you are looking for. And I'll also note too, again, if the song doesn't have a download file available, you can always engrave it yourself. You can contact the member publisher and ask if they have a copy of it. You can just use the text if you want to, all well and good as long as you have a reprint license with us. All right, Katie, in just a moment, I'm going to ask if we have any questions that came up during that section. But first, Sierra, can you share our next poll for folks to answer, please?
Absolutely. So our next poll is, what is your favorite reporting feature?
That's a great
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Brenna, we had a lot of questions on this section for sure. So we will start out with, we had a number of variations on this question. So sometimes there are a lot of really similar entries in our system. How can I be sure that I'm reporting the correct entry?
Yeah, so it's all going to come down to the copyright information. So you'll notice that maybe there's a different translation, or maybe there's a different arrangement. When it comes to public domain pieces, that can certainly be the case. You're searching for Silent Night, but you want to find, Silent Night by Katie M. Deaver, the arranger of the piece, right? I don't know. Have you written an arrangement to Silent Night?
Not recently, no. I'll think about it. I'll think about it.
Okay, great. Having that contributor data is the best way to be able to narrow down which title you're looking for. Thanks for asking.
Perfect. I think that is really, really helpful. All right. I think I will go ahead and turn things over to Sierra so that she can tell us a little bit more about some special features that we're really excited about here at One License.
Thank you, Katie. So here at One License, we take great care in making sure we are educating our license holders. I know we've mentioned the blog. I've shared quite a few links in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead and take this moment to show it off for you all, because I love our blog site. So here you can see our blog on, when you first get to it, news.onelicense.net, you will see our 3 most recent blog pieces. You will also notice that we have these 3 categories below: Music Ministry Toolkit, Podcast Streaming, and Webinars. Our staff has taken a lot of care in making sure that we are cataloging and tagging our blogs so that they are going to be relevant and coming up when you are searching. And these are really great resources. If you're looking for information directly related to podcast streaming, click that podcast streaming area and just take some time, go through and learn more. We've got a lot of really great resources regarding YouTube, managing those YouTube claims. I know I shared that link earlier. Using other people's YouTube videos in your services, all sorts of great information here regarding podcast streaming. I personally love this reporting instrumental choral title blog piece. I think it really gives a lot of really great tips and tricks on how to do that piece. And I'm going to ask Katie to share that link in the chat for you all. We also have a search feature here. So if you are just wondering about reporting, you can type in reporting. Some will auto-populate right here. You can see all results. And again, look at all these really great resources that have just become available to you and your team. It's just a really great place to dig in, learn more, and find out how you can make reporting easier, or just see what's new with One License. We also have our Spotlight series, which I know my dear friend Katie has worked very hard on. This is where we get to connect with our member publishers and kind of give them a place to talk about themselves and show off what they are excited about. It could be a really great way for you to learn more about some of our member publishers and maybe expand the music ministry in your congregation. So definitely take a look at that. We also have our monthly newsletter. I'm going to show off our January one that just went out a couple weeks ago. These come out the last Tuesday of the month. We will always feature the latest from our blog. Last month, we got to highlight our new team member, so definitely look for some emails from him. He's great and doing a fantastic job. We also will highlight our call and response event, as well as updates, new member publishers, sometimes catalog updates will be announced here. And we will always end with a quick tip from Katie. So some of those common questions will get answered. Some of them are a little more nuanced. So there's always more information to learn here. I'm going to go back to call and response for a second, just to tell you a little bit about this event. So this happens once a month. And we get to have our little kind of 45-minute office hour gathering where you can come and join us. You can have a camera on, camera off, however you are comfortable. come as you are moment, and just talk to our staff and ask your questions, or maybe even just come and be there and see what your colleagues are asking. It really can be a collaborative moment where we can all learn from each other, see what things are working for your organizations. Maybe it'll work for another. Really great moment to come together and just learn more. We do have one coming up next week, February 16th. So if you still have questions after today, I really encourage you to join us next week. Go ahead and email us at info@onelicense.net, and we will get you all signed up for that. Now I want to know, what is your favorite way to learn more about One License? So I'm going to launch our final poll, and I'd love to hear what you all think. While that is going, I'm going to go ahead and transition the remainder of our time to Katie for our Q&A. Katie, what kind of questions are we getting?
Thanks so much, Sierra. I'm just pleasantly overwhelmed with the questions that you folks are asking. So thank you so much. Just a word to note, we are definitely not going to be able to get to all of your questions in the next 10 minutes. So please do feel free to send us an email at info@onelicense.net, and we will absolutely get those answered if we don't answer them now. So let's jump right in. So Brenna, I think this will be a good one for you to offer some thoughts about. We are a newly combined parish, but we have 4 buildings. Do we all need to share a license, or should we have separate licenses? What's your recommendation for our situation?
Good question. So we see this happening a lot, especially in Catholic churches, whether it's a reduction in attendance or pre-shortage or whatever it happens to be. So if there has been some type of decree, some sort of official legal announcement saying that there are multiple sites that are now one entity, then those organizations can share a license. So if St. Mary and St. Joseph and St. Cecilia are all now the United Parishes of XYZ, then that's okay. We note too that if St. Joseph's Church and St. Joseph's School, I mean, they're the same name, they may even have the same address, those of course can be linked. But an example I often give is if there is a high school, let's call it Cardinal Bernardine High School, and it all filters in from St. Mary, St. Joseph, St. George, that high school is still its own entity and needs its own license. So it's only if there is some type of official, yoking that's happening to make those a shared license. Thanks for asking.
That's great. Thank you so much for that, Brenna. And too, I'll just sort of echo, if there are specifics to your situation, feel free to let us know those and we can make a recommendation specifically for your context.
Absolutely. And it may even be too that a group license is a better fit. I know that there are a number of diocesan offices and school districts that have been reaching out to us in the last couple of weeks since the new year. They really want to have that group license coverage. We offer a group license for organizations that have more than 10 sub-organizations. So by that, I mean, of course, a diocese, of course, a school district most often. We are able to bring on all of those accounts at the same time, give you a significant discount for that. Last year, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, Columbus, Ohio, Jefferson City, there are tons and tons of cities that are joining on with us in that group license way. So if you happen to be an administrative entity from a diocese or from a school district and you want more information about that, we're really happy to help you. I mean, the discount alone, I think is worth it. And the added education and the way that you're able to hold your sub-organizations accountable is super important. So just wanted to throw that in there. What other questions do you have, Katie?
Perfect. I'm wondering, as we sometimes do, we have a lot of confusion around the differences and the similarities between us here at One License and CCLI. Could you just speak to those differences and what folks should really be considering when they figure out what licensing they need?
Yeah, for sure. So the most important thing is to figure out which licensing agency covers the works that you are looking to use. So the vast majority of the time, the works on both of the services are different. CCLI tends to lean more evangelical or praise and worship in their style of music. One License tends to lean more liturgical or more traditional. There's different adjectives that you can use. If you're a mainline Protestant or Catholic organization who is participating in liturgy, you're very likely going to have a license with us. But say, for example, your youth group wants to use more contemporary music, that's just fine. You're welcome to have a license in both places because the works under both are different. Plenty of churches, of course, if they have the means, have licenses in both places, but you would never report a CCLI song to us or a song of ours to them. So it's a very separate when it comes to the services themselves.
Thanks, Brenna. I think that'll be really helpful with a lot of those questions that we're hearing. I'll sort of send this one over to Sierra, but certainly Brenna can jump in if she would like. I know we've already highlighted Sierra's wonderful article about those claims and strikes in those online services, but that continues to be a place of concern for folks. Are there any, I don't know, tips or tricks that you can provide, Sierra, to help us know how to get that information in our services and try and avoid those nasty claims and strikes?
Yeah, those can be very scary, but rest assured, you don't need to be scared. Those claims, they're kind of like warning flags. Strikes you should be aware of. If you get to a strike situation, definitely let us know. But as far as claims goes, that's mostly YouTube saying, hey, there's a sound in this video that matches something that's copyrighted and likely something that's commercially recorded. So I like to say, if you're getting lots of claims on your video, your music sounds really good because it's matching a commercial recording sound clip, and those bots are searching for that. We do ask that you share your permissions in your video. I have also found that sharing your permissions in the description part of your video can be quite helpful as well. Having that in both places is kind of your best line of defense. You can always dispute those claims. That is up to you. If it comes back and they're still holding tight that claim is held, just know that it usually means that you just can't monetize your video. So you can't be collecting money off of it, and an ad might appear from the person who has a claim on your video, so that they can monetize your video. It's a balance. And if you want to know more about that, I'll share that link again about dealing with those copyright claims. If you have a specific situation in your organization, feel free to email us, info@onelicense.net. I'd be happy to take a look at your video and see if there's anything else I can suggest for you.
Thanks, Sierra. That's really helpful. So another popular question today. So what if the copyright year on the copy of the music that I'm using doesn't match the year in the entry on the One License database site?
Well, that's certainly possible. I don't want to oversimplify it, but a website's a lot easier to update than a printed resource is. So it's totally possible that printed resource was, generated at the time it was generated, and the publisher is using the website for more updated copyright information. So that's possible. I often think about if the title matches, the publisher matches, the contributor matches, you're in really, really good shape. Even if there was a small, tiny update to the piece, they would put a new year on it. But usually there aren't pieces in the system that are so close data-wise that you're then also looking at the copyright year. Copyright year is a good gauge, but the contributor information and the title and publisher are more important.
Perfect. I think that's really helpful. One of the other things that continues to be a question today, and I can speak to this a little bit. So if a member publisher participates in podcast streaming, does that mean that every single title in their catalog is approved for podcast streaming? So certainly, and Sierra and Brenna, feel free to jump in on this one too. But sort of the short answer is that no, just because they participate in podcast streaming does not necessarily mean that every single title in their catalog is approved for that type of usage. As Brenna walked us through the website, you'll see those really helpful icons. So at first glance, when you've found the title, you'll be able to tell right away what types of usage are okayed for that title. But certainly if there are questions or concerns about that, you're welcome to reach out to us for clarification or contact the publisher directly to get those permissions. Anything either of you would offer to add on to that part of that conversation?
I was just going to add that there are 180,000 songs in the song catalog. It's massive, and our member publishers really and truly do everything that they can to make sure that their data is accurate. So I was just going to offer that there's always room for improvement, and if there's confusion or you think that something should be covered, feel free to email us. We're happy to take a look at it. Sierra, is there anything else you would offer for this?
No, I think you both covered that beautifully.
Great.
Super. Thank you both so much. And thank you again for asking such excellent questions today. If we weren't able to get to your question today, or if anything we've talked about today has sort of inspired new questions, please really do send us an email at info@onelicense.net, or log into your account and you can submit your question through that contact link up on that upper right-hand corner of the screen.
Thank you, Katie, so much. I mean, I feel bad. I feel like we should have a 6-hour webinar because I know that copyright can be so nuanced. And we work really hard to have an education forward approach to all of this, my friends. If you are left feeling like you have more questions than answers, please attend call and response, really anytime. It's always open. The topic is always flexible. Feel free to attend those virtual office hours. We'd certainly love to have you. And also, again, please send us an email. It's going to be all hands on deck for our team for the next couple of days as we get to all of your questions. And we really and truly want to help. So just, I wanted to offer that because I know that, oh gosh, can't get to everything and I want to just stay here for the next 4 hours and answer all the questions. So I will move towards our closing because I know we have to land the plane. Thank you, Katie and Sierra. I sincerely appreciate all of your work and effort towards helping and supporting our license holders, not just today, but every day. And thank you to all of our license holders who joined us today too. It was so wonderful to have all of you. We appreciate your time and your attention. This information is so important. And I know that you want to do the right thing and we want to help you do the right thing. We mentioned at the beginning of the webinar recording that this will be posted to the blog, and you can also reference the PDF notes document that'll be on the blog too with those fast facts. All of the information from Sierra's prelude video will also be there too, and we'll also be featuring that at the end of our video here today. So if you missed that, and if you want to stick around for a couple of minutes to watch, it's about 4 or 5 minutes, we'll be replaying that again. Otherwise, we wish you health and happiness and an end to a pandemic and all good things really and truly this year and beyond. It is our absolute honor and privilege of a lifetime to be your partners in ministry. So thank you so much for joining us today for our One License New User webinar. We hope you go forth inspiring congregational song. Goodbye, everyone.